Thank you very much for your company here. An Accra Human Rights Court has granted ace broadcaster Kwesi Dakwa bail. KKD was granted bail on humanitarian grounds, citing his health as one of the reasons. Justice Kofi Esel Mensah, who sat on the case, granted the renowned media personality bail of some 20,000 cedis with two sureties. Kwesi Dakwa, who has been charged with rape, has denied the charge. He has admitted, however, of having sex with the 19-year-old female, adding it was consensual. KKD and his lawyers resorted to the Human Rights Court to seek bail after the magistrate court denied him same. Manager of Systems Control, Gridco, Frank Autry, says a new load shedding timetable is due to be released soon after a meeting of the various stakeholders. Ghana is currently experiencing energy shortage due to shortfall in supply. He spoke with Joy News' Mama Viewusu Abwaje.
I have the power. Who do I hold responsible? Because ECG would normally say, I can only give what I have.
Right.
But you are given to ECG.
Well, we transport to ECG, and so there are many different reasons why you could go off. If you take first of all the load shedding, which we have been on for now, the load shedding is precipitated by a shortage in supply, which means that if you put
in generation,
yes, if you put together all the generating capacity that we have as a nation right now, it is not up to the amount of the demand that we have on the grid right now, and that requires that some amount of demand must be cut off in order to balance the demand and the supply. But there could be other instances where if the feeder that is coming to your facility or your line, either through a rainstorm or through maybe human activity, there is some damage to that equipment. You could have outages that come from the distribution network, which are not emanating from generation, neither from the transmission. You could also have instances where there could be a transmission constraint, where either a transmission line or a transformer develops a fault, and therefore for a moment we have transmission constraints, and that can end up in shortage of supply to you. But typically, with regards to the load shedding that we have been experiencing, that is due to generation or supply constraint, and so that is coming way up from the generation level, and so it's a shortage in generation that requires then that we manage the demand so that at every point in time demand matches with the supply. So you cannot say it's an ECG problem, but they have to manage it with us. All of us are managing it together.
Why don't we have a timetable? In fact, why don't we have a new timetable since the power cuts hasn't stopped?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I can assure you that there is an interutility committee on the load shedding which is meeting this week, and they are working out to come out with a new timetable. You know, you put a timetable for a limited period so that at the end of the period you assess. You assess how it has gone, what improvements have come, and then that advises the new schedule that you send out.
Well, now, Chairman of the Senior Staff Union of Metro Mass Transit, Delali Kuma, has lauded President Mahama's decision to dissolve the board of directors of the company. The managing director of the MMT, Noble John Apia, as well as his deputy John Ewukuzuaza, who have also been asked to step aside for investigations to commence into the operations of the company.
Hello.
Did you achieve what you set out to get?
Well, we first of all wish to thank the presidency for intervening to dissolve the board, and also deciding to investigate the issues further. We believe it's the step in the right direction, and we hope that after the investigations, the managing director will be exonerated. Then he will come and work peacefully with us.
Why do you feel the managing director could be exonerated at the end of the day?
We raised certain issues, and we don't have any evidence that he was culpable in the issues that we raised. That's on the strength of which we are making such a statement.
But don't you think he perhaps failed, from the point of view of the president, failed to overlook affairs or perform his oversight duty well enough at the company?
We believe the investigations will be fair, and once there is fair investigation, the expected outcome would be smooth.
Very well. And so what happens now for you as workers?
Yes, the office is okay. Everything is going on as normal. We are just waiting patiently to see the interim head, as it were.
You don't sound happy, though.
Well, it's not a personal thing. I'm leading workers. I'm leading a group of people. So it's the sentiments of my members that I carry.
But the point I'm making is, you and your workers took the whole of Monday morning off. In effect, as a country, we lost a lot of money. Now, whatever your target was, as far as we are concerned as taxpayers, you have achieved it, because the board is no longer in place, Ewuku Juaza is no longer in place, and so then you have achieved what you set out to get. But you don't sound happy about it.
Well, like I said, the other people, Mr. Okuzuaza and Mr. Nobulapia, are going to be subjected to some form of investigation. So we await the outcome of the investigation, and we pray it's speedy.
We'll stay on the subject, where I also spoke with Ohemin Terry, a multimedia journalist who broke the story on the missing buses, on his observations when he visited the head office here in Accra today. How would you describe the scene at the headquarters today?
It's some sort of quiet place. You only see the workers in groups, and a few of them who also have access to radio have been tuning into the various radio stations across the country to get first-hand information of issues affecting their company. And I can also report that a couple of security agents have been scoping into the Metro Market Transit Yard. Some of them are DNI, and then some of them are also national security agents who are all here to get first-hand information after investigations begin into the activities and operations of Metro Market Transit. But beyond this, I can also report that the leadership of the two workers groups, the senior staff union and the junior staff union, have been meeting to fashion out and come up with their response on the issue of the provision of the board, and the two top men of the company being asked to step aside for investigations to continue. And very soon the meeting will end. But I will not be surprised if the leadership, express their dissatisfaction with the president's move. Also
very well.
The MD to step aside.
Very well. Now, I mean, what do we know about the acting managing director of the company coming to office? What do we know about when it will take place?
That is a difficult question, because I try to get a sense of understanding of when the acting MD will take over the affairs of the company. But the workers, they themselves are not aware. And I've also tried getting information from elsewhere. My sources are a bit tight-lipped, and they themselves are not quite sure when the deputy, the acting MD will assume office. But I can also report that I get this information that the MD, Mr. Nobolapia, has been in office today, but the whereabouts of his deputy, Mr. John Alfie-Braga, is not known. Don't forget that yesterday the workers staged a protest asking him not to step his foot into the office of Metro Mass Transit. At the point, the besieging Montreal police intervened, but that at that point they had already deflated the tires of his official vehicle. So the workers were incensed. So I'm sure maybe his absence will be from this backdrop of yesterday's incident.
Now, the year 2014 saw numerous industrial actions by various labor groups demanding payment of allowances of improved condition of service or something. With the first month of 2015 almost ending, Matilda Omega has been speaking to some members of the public on what should be done to ensure a very serene labor front this year.
2014 saw a number of strike actions and demonstrations by labor unions because of service conditions and management of pension scheme. This year, 2015, we want to find out from the public what should be the posture of government and labor unions so we do not see a repeat of last year's labor agitation.
And with the labor issues, for me, I think, for the private sector, most of the, the strikes that they were going, it was more about the public, right? And for the private, I think it's more organized. And there's usually, an understanding between the employees and the employer. So they put in measures to ensure that they don't usually have to go on strike, like maybe our banking industry. But for the public sector, I don't know. There is a mistrust between government and the union. You see, what government comes to say, people don't believe. So they always feel that maybe government is doing things their way, things that will benefit the government and not the, yes. So I think that is one of the issues we have, and there should always be an understanding before we even put in place the measures, you see.
I'm saying that the government should increase pay of workers. Yes, that's all. Yeah, that's what we need. We'll be working, but our pockets, yes. So the government should increase our pay. Yeah.
They should exercise patience to the government. Though I'm not in support of any political party, but some of these things, some of the political parties are behind all these things, and we need to talk to our institutions. We are Ghanaians. Especially at the hospitals. When it happened, like people, lost their life, which is very bad. And doctors, you sworn that, you be in aid of patients. Well, the government too has to do something about their salary.
What the government should do, they should try to solve their issues for them. Whatever problem that they are having in their company or their industry, just try to resolve it. And try to increase any salary or whatever they are trying to involve, like they are trying to demand from the government. So I think that one also will help them to, so that the strike will not come down, to not continue this year, to come down.
So how about the labor unions? What advice would you give them?
The labor what I would tell them that.
The workers, what advice will you give them?
I will tell them that they should calm down. They should focus their mind on God. They should let God be their source. They shouldn't let the government be their source. They should let God be their source. All the time, if they let the government be their source, they will always be demanding.
The Ghana Medical Association says its members will in due course unilaterally declare themselves out of job with the government's delay in finishing them with their conditions of service. Assistant General Secretary Dr. Justice Dufu Youngson explains his colleagues are becoming increasingly frustrated by government's failure to conclude their condition of service as essential service providers.
The conditions of service, he said, will properly spell out their terms of engagement, both financial and non-financial. He argues it will also improve the service delivery as well as make people accountable. The process of agreeing the conditions of service, he however says, has taken way too long.
Issues to do with our conditions of service have been on the table for 10 years now. It still hasn't been resolved. So if we agitate that, look, that document called conditions of service document should be finalized for us to know our way forward, I think it is just fair. How can you work without terms of reference? GMA, as we speak, we have issues with our pensions, convention difference and all that arising out of the single spine salary structure. These issues have been on the table for about 5 years now. Labour Commission has ruled. They failed to enforce their ruling. Government is also not implementing the rulings. At the end of the day, do you expect us to keep quiet? All we are asking for is that the various arrangements that have been in place for some years now that are not being implemented to the full or properly should be implemented. That is what we are saying.
He also accused the National Labour Commission for not acting in the interest of workers, stressing the NLC is also partly to blame for the labour agitation.
I, as a person or representing the Medical Association, we feel that they have basically failed us. They can give us the reasons, but for us, that is how we say it, because if you refuse to enforce your rulings, then more or less you are just beginning to deny your basic right of existence, that you are a law enforcement or law adjudicating body. Any adjudicating body that cannot enforce its rulings, more or less, is to be one. But we are looking up to them to see what they will do this year. But what we are saying is that we'll keep asking for these things, and this year we'll make sure that they are implemented. Else, we've given notice to the whole world. We are prepared to resign and block, give the jobs to the employer to do. You cannot force a man to work for you. That is the position of the Medical Association now. Either we get our conditions of service document signed, or we all consider ourselves not parts of the service. It's a simple thing.
He urged government to, as a matter of urgency, address the concerns raised. Matilda Pamaga for Joy News.
There's more to come here. Stay on. Away from that, the Ethiopian cargo aircraft that skidded off the runway of the Kotoka International Airport Saturday developed a flat tire upon London, leading to the accident. Preliminary investigations have revealed that the Boeing 737-400 aircraft with registration number ET-AQV operated by A-Sky from Lomé to Accra skidded off the runway, causing extensive damage to the aircraft. The 3-member crew on board the aircraft were treated and discharged for various injuries at the 37 Military Hospital in Accra. A statement issued by the management of Ethiopian Airlines read in part that the aircraft skidded out of the runway with flat tires upon landing at the KIA in Accra on January 10, 2015. The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority Monday set up a 7-member committee to investigate the actual cause of the crash landing incident at Ghana's only international airport. About 300 children suffering from a holding heart condition are awaiting treatment at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. 4-year-old Ryan just joined the list. He needs $6,000 to undergo the surgery. Sorry, in a bit, you're still here on News Today. And, well, we can look at our economy now. The Ghanaian economy grew by 5.1% between July and September last year. The figure represents significant growth compared to the 1% seen over the same period in 2013. Deputy Government Statistician Ba Wadia explains the agricultural sector's growth of 8.1% as being the highest amongst the sectors played a very important role.
This means the value of goods and services produced in the third quarter of 2014 grew by 1.4% compared to the second quarter of 2014. The comparable growth for the second quarter of 2014 was 0.2%.
The most notable performances of the quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted growth rates were financial and insurance activities, fishing, information and communication activities.
And the quarterly year-on-year growth rate for the third quarter of 2014 was 5.1%. This implies that compared to the third quarter of 2013, the value of goods and services produced in the third quarter of 2014 increased by 5.1%.
Well, we can now talk about Ryan, who needs $6,000 for his hole and heart surgery. He's only 4.
The tears of a mother afraid her son will die. It took 4 years after getting married for Zelia to finally have a successful pregnancy. In the 4 years after, her son Ryan has been her pride and joy.
Anytime I look at the child, I don't know where the tears is coming from, so I can't even control myself.
Your body said that.
It all starts with a cough.
Anytime he's just coughing, you will see that he will feeling so weak. That's how it started, and finally he can't speak 1 month now. He hasn't been in school.
Zelia cannot stand the thought of losing her only child.
People to help us to save our child life. I'm afraid I must lose him. I don't know what to say.
4-year-old Ryan is begging for $6,000 to help him stay alive. To save Ryan, kindly donate any amount to Multimedia Group Limited, Barclays Bank Circle Branch, account number 041-201-8095, account number 041-201-8095.
We look forward to your contributions. Now, the Africa Center for Energy Policy has joined calls for government to refrain from implementing a mitigation levy on petroleum products. While they contend the levy will be burdensome for Ghanaians, its proceeds may not be properly accounted for, as has happened in the past.
Hints of a possible introduction of a mitigation levy on petroleum products got the civil society organizations such as ISODEC raising protestations. Government says such a levy will help stabilize fuel prices locally when global oil prices soar in the future. But the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASAP, says that is not the way out.
We shouldn't impose further burden on consumers. Because the fact of the matter is that you cannot, as I said, control prices from Ghana. And for that matter, you can't even save so much to be able to offset future rise in price. Assuming prices go back to $100, you cannot have, say, 10 billion Ghana cedis sitting in an account to be able to close that margin. So we just have to allow the market to dictate the prices and allow consumers to enjoy when prices come down. As we speak, there is BOST levy, there is toll debt recovery levy, there is exploration levy. You and I do not know how those funds are utilized. Proper accounting is lacking in all of these levies, and we are going to add another one to it. So the net effect is that you are giving another window for political mismanagement.
Although Ghana is an oil exporter and is feeling the squeeze due to the current situation, Asa believes the country is better off in a regime of falling oil prices.
The fact is that when prices are falling, you actually enhance the amount of money left with citizens, which they can invest. So they have the opportunity to buy product cheaply or cheaper and make some savings that they can invest into their businesses. At the same time, government can capture more revenue through taxation and be able to offset whatever damage a drop in prices would have caused to exports. So in Ghana's situation, I think is positive.
The center is meanwhile reiterating its calls for government to be more transparent with transactions in the entire oil and gas sector.
Well, the Accra Regional Police Command has nabbed a notorious bag snatcher operating on the University of Ghana campus around the Pentagon Hall. The Deputy Accra Regional Police Commander ACP Timothy Bonga said the police will continue to wage war on all criminals determined to disturb the public peace.
On the 6th of January this year, that is 2015, the suspect attacked a lady at Legon, specifically Pentagon, TF, the stretch of road. He snatched her bag containing personal belongings and an amount of 2,000 Ghana cedis. After the suspect had bolted into the bush, the lady, that's the victim, quickly reported the incident to a visibility point close by, who quickly followed up to the location of the occurrence. When the visibility team arrived at the scene, the suspect, who had already parked a motorbike on the main road and was about to jump on it, was pursued by the policemen. But he abandoned the motorbike and bolted into the bush again. The motorbike was impounded and brought to the police station. 3 days later, a gentleman reported at the station and claimed to be the owner of the said motorbike. He was arrested, and upon interrogation, he led the police to the hideout of this suspect at Akofiche, where he was arrested. The suspect led the police to the bush where the complainant's handbag was retrieved. He has confessed having snatched about 30 bags. He is being processed for court.
Our main stories here on News Today. Ace broadcaster Kwesi Darko granted bail by Human Rights Court in Accra. Systems Control Manager of the Ghana Grid Company, Frank Otri, says a new load shedding timetable will be released soon. Senior Staff Association of Metro Mass Transit Limited lauded government's decision to dissolve the company's board. find more news on myjoyonline.com. Thank you very much for your company here. My name is Kimini Yamani Amano. Goodbye.